Hey, what is going on, everybody? This is Jared with the Inner Squared Circle. It is, what the heck month are we in? It's July. It's July 11th, 2018. This is the weekly Q&A call for Double Your Bookings. And guys, exciting stuff is going on. Like, honestly, one of the most fulfilling things for me is really being able to see and hear and get the testimonials coming back and read the letters and the private messages that I'm getting, or just even the breakthroughs in the group that I see. Either if it's on the free Inner Squared Circle group or if it's on the Double Your Booking support group for the people that are members. Like, for the past couple of weeks, like since this thing has started, but even in the past couple of weeks, it's been ramping up so much, and like it honestly makes me happy. Like, it doesn't make me, like, it makes me happy, but like it makes me happy for you guys to see that this is making such a difference, right? Because just to give you an example of what's been going on, like there's a guy I know for a fact, like he's been having a really, really hard time getting his value out there. And I know for a fact because I've talked to him and he's talked to me preliminary, as like a preliminary type of thing. And he was just really feeling down and out, and like he could not ask for what he's worth. And he'd always get taken advantage of. And I'm like, listen, man, this will help you. Listen, this will help you. Listen, this will help you. And I gave him some of the exercises that we do in this group. And he wouldn't listen to it. And then finally he listened to it. And I got the message yesterday. He goes, oh my God, man, this was life changing. And like his exact words, you can actually see it. I posted what he said in the Inner Squared Circle main group, but he goes, just doing this one audio, I felt more powerful, more in control of myself, more in control of my life and my career than I've ever felt before, ever in the history of me being in this business. And he said for the first time ever, he actually felt like he was worth something and that he could ask for what he's worth and that he could make the goals he had in this business an actual reality. I mean, I put it out there because I've been doing research basically on how I can better serve you guys. Because I mean, I practice what I preach. You know, when I tell you guys, go find out what the audience of wrestlers want, or go find out what the fans want and give it to them, not what you think is cool. I'm doing the same thing. I'm trying to find out, what do wrestlers need? What are you guys going through? What is holding you back? So I asked the questions. I said, what are the questions that you need answered in the business? So that way I know how to serve the wrestlers better. Does that make sense? And so the answers that I'm getting is like, you know, I don't know how to overcome resistance, or I don't know what happens when the whole world is against me, or, you know, I can't keep my own promises. Like stuff like that. Like, it gets deeper than the wrestling business. And, you know, somebody that I know, he works for New Japan Pro Wrestling. He messaged me privately. He goes, the group that you've created, Inner Squared Circle, is an amazing thing. And he goes, it's an amazing thing because I've never seen a group of wrestlers be able to be so honest with what's been affecting them before. And he goes, you're really creating an environment where people can move forward. And like, that makes me feel so good. Like Dave Turner, he's one of the OGs of Double Your Bookings. He just wrote a testimonial, or he recorded a testimonial. I asked him if you do it because we were talking privately, and he tells me this privately as a message. And I said, would you be willing to just record what you told me? He goes, absolutely. This guy, the same thing. He couldn't express his value to promoters before. And now he's able to, and now, whereas he might not have gotten any responses from promoters before, now he can write an email to 10 promoters, get 7 responses, and have stuff getting put into place for the future. Guys, it's so validating for me, and it should be validating for you, that, you know, things are really going in the right direction. And I hope you're really starting to realize, like, it's like that song, you know, I can see clearly now the rain is gone, right? I don't mean to be corny, but guys, it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be what all these guys in the business told you it had to be. It doesn't have to be struggle and pain and anguish and all this stuff. It can really just be fun and easy. And even if you're stuck with a roadblock here and there, at least you can always overcome it. At least you know there's options. At least you know that you don't have to be stuck. Does that make sense? So today what I want to get into is, I've really just been feeling the temperature of the group. And what I want to talk to you guys about is really how you're able to take it to the next level, and how you're always able to just go a little bit outside your comfort zone to make sure you're always making progress. Because the Q&A calls, you know, these are for the first 8 weeks, you know, and we can always figure out ways to keep you guys staying involved and stuff like that. But at the end of week 8, at the end of week 9, really, you guys are going to be off on your own into this world. And I'd be privileged to continue on with you and help you out in whatever aspect that you guys need. I really need that. But I want to make sure that you guys are prepared moving on into week 8 and beyond. That this is something where we can take the training wheels off and you guys are going to be able to walk on your own. It's like finding balance, right? When you're first on a bike, you need the training wheels. And then when you take the training wheels off, you start to fall over. And then pretty soon, like it's like something happens where all of a sudden you discover balance and you can't really describe what balance is. Like try to describe what balance is. Like you really can't. But once you find balance, you never really lose it, right? Because how long has it been since you've ridden a bicycle? You know, but I bet you can get on one right now and still be able to go. You found your balance. So the whole point here is I want to make sure you guys are able to find your balance, you know, for not just for being a part of this course, but beyond. And just give me 30 seconds to just double check to make sure that, you know, anybody that wants to get in on this call can get in. Some people might be joining us late, so give me a second to admit them. Hang on. Okay, great, we're back. So I want to share with you some stuff that I've been going through this week. And whenever I share with you stuff about me, what I'm really doing is I'm inviting you to consider stuff about you. Okay, because when I tell a story about my parents, maybe you start to think about yours. Or if I tell a story about my wrestling career, maybe you start to think about yours. Does that make sense? So whenever I tell stories, I really hope it doesn't come across as like these self-serving old school, like, listen to how cool I was, brother. This is all the cool stuff I did in my career. I hope you think I'm special. Like, that's not what I'm doing it for. Like, everything I do is to create a metaphor so that way you guys can get a breakthrough in your career. Does that make sense? So what I've been going through lately is really trying to find out what's really my stuff and what's really the stuff that somebody else gave me. Does that make sense? And I'll say it again. Like, I've really been trying to figure out what is my stuff versus what's something that somebody else gave me. So quite simply, you know, as we grow up in this wrestling business, or as we grow up in life, we start to develop attitudes, beliefs, patterns, things that hold us back, things that we are afraid of. And sometimes we think that they're ours. But really, sometimes we might have got them from somebody else and not even realize it. And that's been showing up for me lately in a whole lot of different ways. So, for example, you know, and this is a blanket example for the wrestling business. When I was first breaking in, there was a veteran in the wrestling business, and I was at a show, and my trainer became the booker for the show. And we were all excited, like, oh, cool, because it was a big show in New England. And we were like, cool, now that my trainer's the booker, we can all get opportunities and stuff like that. So I went to the show as like a new guy to kind of watch and help out with the ring. And, you know, this was like back in 2004, 2003, like I was brand new. And the veteran at the time, like the one that you would consider Randy the Ram Robinson, right? Like the veteran in that show, he did an Ironman match. And he came back from the Ironman match, and the trainer, my booker, and the promoter of the show, who was a respected promoter in New England, goes, everybody give this man a round of applause. So he had his Ironman match, he came back, and the promoter and the booker praise this guy. I want to give this guy a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the best kept secret in New England. And everybody stands up, the locker room, like, because it was like the boys, it was for the boys. All the boys stand up, all the boys applaud him. Oh my God, you're amazing. Oh, what a great guy, the best kept secret, right? And I want you to think of something very sneaky, though. It became linked up. And it became linked up the fact that, you know, being the best kept secret was a good thing. So what do you think that did for my career? What do you think that did for the way that I operated? It wasn't something that I decided on my own. I didn't come up with the best kept secret as a good thing on my own. That was something that I heard from somebody, and I adopted it as my own because it sounded really good. But because I adopted it as my own, what ended up happening was I started to believe that it was good to be the best kept secret. So I would put myself in situations and I would carry myself where I would be a really good talent. I would be a really good hand, but I wouldn't put myself out there to be known. I thought it was better to be unknown, but really good. I thought there was a certain level of honor in being the guy that was really good, but nobody knew. It was almost like I felt like a certain level of pride of being the underground band that nobody knew, right? Does that make sense? But it was never mine in the first place. It was never mine. It was just somebody else's that they told me. And at a young age, at a formative age in my career, I took it to mean that's a good thing. And it affected everything that I did. Does that make sense? So consider, where in your business has this been holding you back? Where in the business has somebody might have told you something that sounded really good, but it's really not yours? So for example, I've been feeling this in other aspects of my life. Okay, so for example, right, my parents came to visit. I live in Florida. My parents live basically in Boston. So they came to visit me in Florida. And they got a condo in Florida. And without keeping the story, it's a personal story, so without making it too long and, long-winded, they basically retired. They bought a condo in Florida. They want to split half their time. They want to do, winters and summers here. And, they want to do 50% of the time. And they came to Florida to visit. And halfway through, my mother gets a cold. And my dad wants to please her. And instead of, so basically they've retired. They've been looking forward to being in Florida their whole life. And now they're finally able to do it. They're here for 2-3 weeks. And now because my mom has the sniffles, my dad wants to rush her home and be accommodating, right? And I'm observing this. And I go, oh my God, some of this is me. Because in my life, I've wanted to be over accommodating. In my life, I've wanted to overgive. In my life, I've never wanted to stick up for what I believed was okay, right? Because I talked to my dad. He goes, I really want to stay in Florida, but I just can't tell your mother. And who am I to tell her that we're gonna stay, right? And I'm like, oh my God, like this was never me, like because I follow that pattern sometimes. I want to overgive. I want to overcompensate for the other person. And I want to put myself last. And I'm watching my dad do this. I go, oh my God, this was never me. And this, I do this unconsciously because I observed him do it, but it's not mine. Does that make sense? There was a friend of mine the other day, because I'm building a business with a mutual friend. And a different friend started saying oh, is that business ever going to happen? Is it ever going to come off the ground and stuff like that? And I started to believe it. I started to be like, oh my God, what if this never comes off the ground? But because what I've been going through lately is deciphering what's mine and what somebody else's, I stopped him. I said, no, stop right there. I go, that's yours. That's not mine. I said, that's what you believe. But if I start to go down that rabbit hole, I'm going to start to believe that the business with my friend isn't possible. And that's not what I choose to believe. Does that make sense? So what in your career, what I'm inviting you to consider is what in your career isn't yours? What in your career is a limitation that somebody else gave you? So for example, if you listen through Double Your Bookings, or maybe you haven't been there yet, but if you did, we did an interview with, he's a good friend of mine named Drew Donovan. And he was the first guy in New England, really, outside of, there was one school that always got their guy signed. He was the first guy out of New England to get signed that wasn't out of that one particular school, okay? But before that, he had a trainer, and the trainer's still active, by the way, and the trainer's still spouting his same nonsense that he'd been spouting for years. But Drew looked up to this trainer as almost like a father figure. And the trainer told Drew, he goes, who are you to stand out? You're too new. You have 2 left feet. You're not athletic enough. You're not in good enough shape. And the trainer was trying to protect him. But really what we found out is the trainer really trying to protect Drew, or is the trainer really just trying to protect himself? Because what would happen if Drew got signed and the trainer never did? Well, then that would mean the trainer's not significant anymore. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of that came from ego. So ask yourself, what really is coming from you and what's coming from somebody else's projection onto you? Is that making sense? I hope that I'm saying this in a way that's easy to understand. So really consider that stuff. So another thing I've been really thinking about in the past couple of days is really, what does it mean to be outside your comfort zone? So we talked about what is yours and what is somebody else's. And that's so important because you want to make sure that you have control over your career. And guys, it's almost like you don't know that something exists until it exists. Like, you don't know something's a problem until you realize it's a problem. Like, time where you were going along and things just seemed normal, things seemed okay, but then all of a sudden you got a glimpse of what the other level was. You got a glimpse of what was possible. And all of a sudden, when you went back into your normal world, like, it's like you woke up from the dream and you're like, wait a minute, something's off. Like, something, I don't feel comfortable going back to the way it was. And this is what's starting to happen for you guys now, because you're getting a glimpse of what it's like outside of the wrestling bubble. And not outside the wrestling bubble as in you have to quit the business, but I mean outside the wrestling bubble as far as like outside the thoughts and feelings and beliefs that have made up the typical wrestling bubble that holds people down and makes them feel like crap about themselves. You're getting a breath of fresh air. It's like you've come up to the surface and you've taken a breath of fresh air, right? You can breathe finally. But now that you're out there, after week 7, after week 8, you're going to have to go back into the business. You're going to have to be back into this world, right? You're going to be back in the real world. And like I said, I'm happy to continue to help you guys out in whatever aspect I can, but I also want you to be able to balance on your own. I want you to be able to handle this on your own as best you can. So the point I was trying to make is, if you ever been doing something that seems like it's normal, then you wake up to a new way of doing things and you go, oh my God, like I didn't realize that. Like, so that's what's starting to happen now. And now that you're starting to get these different beliefs, these different feelings, these different things like that, it's almost like now you can be aware of what's going on. Now you can be aware of, oh, that was never my thought in the first place. That was never what I really believed. Oh, okay. That's really coming from that person being jealous, or that's really coming from that person's, that person never made it, so they think it's not possible for anybody to make it. But that's not true, because somebody else has made it, so that means making it is possible, right? You see what I'm saying? So going back, I was about to transition into the next aspect of this. The next aspect of it was, how do you live a life where you're continuing to grow, continuing to be outside your comfort zone? And I'll tell you a story. And I'm not going to name any names because it's I don't want to put anybody on blast. But I had an intro call with a guy a couple weeks ago, and he was actually I had an intro call with a guy. First, it was a year ago. And I talked to him a year ago, and I asked him, I said, well, what's your goals in this business? And it was like the same type of phone call that we all had before you come in to double your bookings. But he was going to be a one-on-one coaching client. And he calls me up, and he goes, I'm really interested in taking it to the next level of my career. I go, great, awesome. Here's what it is. Here's where you are. Here's where you want to go. We figured out the things that were holding him back. I said, here's the investment. All it's going to take is this. Would you like to get started? And he goes, I got to think about it. And I said, okay, but what I found is that people don't value stuff that they get for free. It's not me. I don't need your money. Truthfully, I don't. But I go, this is all about you agreeing. This is all about you taking the next step and putting something on the line for your career and saying, I am going to make it. And by you making the investment, it makes your brain say, I'm taking this business seriously. Does that make sense? Because I've noticed anybody that I've allowed in to double your bookings for a week or two for free actually doesn't use the course at all. They don't use the material because I can see the back end of it. Nobody uses it. So the fact that I charge for it actually is a technique to make sure that people use it. Honestly, it is. So, and that's why when we talk about your career, if you're doing stuff for cheap or free, people aren't going to value you as much. You see what I'm saying? So this guy, I go, okay, here it is. Here's where you are. Here's where you want to go. Here's what's holding you back. I can guarantee I can help you with this. Here's how we're going to do it. All it's going to take is for you to get on these calls, and here's the investment because I got to think about it. And it was dirt cheap, and he definitely could have afforded it, but he just didn't want to do it for whatever. He just wanted to do it on his own. Guys, a year later, I did the Declaration of Independence promotion. He calls me up. He goes, hey, I waited a year. I should have done it last year. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go right now. I go, well, where are you in your career? He goes, I'm doing some independent stuff, and I'm a manager, and things are cool. And I go, yeah, but okay, how many promotions are you at? I'm in one promotion right now. I go, okay, good. Well, that's better than the 0 promotions you were in a year ago. But you know what I'm saying? But here's what's going to happen. He's in a promotion where that one promotion runs itself for the summer, but after the summer, it doesn't run anymore. It's like a seasonal promotion. So I said, what's going to happen in September when it doesn't run anymore? I'll figure it out then. So I go, here's where you are, here's where you're going to go, here's where you want to go, here's the potential problem that you're going into. We can help you with the problem, all it's going to take. And it's cheaper now. It was even cheaper than it was last year because now double your bookings exist, and double your bookings doesn't cost the same as what it costs for one-on-one coaching, which is all I offered last year. Does that make sense? And I said, all it's going to be is this. And he goes, I got to think about it. And I go, okay, that's fine. But I go, you said you're going to think about it a year ago. I don't need your money, but this is about you taking a stand for your own career, saying, I will not settle for less. I'm gonna take this thing seriously. I'm going to take the next step. Because I got to think about it. Guys, I've seen this all the time. And let me ask you, I don't even have to tell you, what do you think is going to happen to that guy's career? You know, maybe what will happen is that the pain of living the same groundhog's career year after year after year will catch up to him. Eventually, he wants to make a change. But what I found is that the longer somebody just stays stuck in one situation, the longer they just gets comfortable, the longer they stay. You need the momentum to go further. Right? It's easy to go further when you have momentum. I was trying to explain to this guy, I said, you have the seasonal booking right now. It's easy for you to get more bookings while you have the seasonal booking because they run in big stadiums. They run in like 1,000, 2,000 people stadiums. So even though it's going to be done in September, while you're still working every weekend, you got to go while the momentum's going because it's always easy to grow when momentum's happening. It's always harder to grow when you have to start growing from a dead stop. Does that make sense? This story always stood out to me. This was the first time I ever got booked for TV. And I was with a guy. It was myself and another talent. And we weren't a tag team or anything like that, but we were just acquaintances. And we were friends. We were in the same group of friends. And we looked very, very similar. Like, I mean, maybe we had like 2% body fat difference, but I mean, our height was barely different. Our weight was barely different. Our looks were barely different. Our characters were both basically just normal, generic white guys, right? Like, there was nothing really discernibly different between the two of us. And then Nova walks in to the show because he's scouting for talent. And Nova goes, hey, I have one open spot for SmackDown. He goes, who wants to go? And he's looking at me and he's looking at this guy. And there's no difference between the two of us. And we both paused. And I raised my hand. And he goes, great, Jared, you're going to SmackDown next Tuesday. And it was like in 2 days. I went to SmackDown. I made a great impression. I started to get booked over and over and over again. I was on a short list of guys that would always go to TV. And that helped me to get further in my career, and that helped me to be able to learn some of the things that I'm teaching you now. Let me tell you this, though. The guy that hesitated, the guy that didn't raise his hand, never went. He never went ever again in his career. That was his one opportunity to raise his hand and go, and he didn't go. And he blamed everybody else but himself. He's like, oh, well, you know, it's because I'm not ready. Or it's because I got to get a better demo reel. Or it's because the talent scout didn't notice me. Nova didn't notice me. Or it's them. They don't know what they're looking for. Or, oh, it's just never going to work out for me. Well, it could have worked out for him in that moment. His opportunity showed up for him in that moment, but his belief said the opportunity is never going to come. His belief was, I'm not ready. His belief was more stuff has to happen before I'm able to go. And he never, ever went, ever. And even though I might have been the same shape, same size, same everything, same level of readiness for him, my belief was when the opportunity shows up, I got to take it now. And I raised my hand and I went. And that's when the world opened up for me, because previously all I had seen was low-level independence. And once I took the step, once I put myself out there, once I put myself on my edge, which I wasn't ready for it, but you're never going to be ready for it. The only way you're ready for it is by stepping out into it, not being ready for it, and then having to get comfortable. You've got to learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Guys, the level of satisfaction in your career is going to be directly in proportion with how uncomfortable that you can tolerate for yourself. The level of success or the level of fulfillment in your career is in direct proportion to the amount of uncomfortableness you can comfortably live with. You've got to put yourself on your edge. And I'm not saying so far on your edge where you're like taking needless risks. I'm not saying so far on your edge where it's like dangerous, or so far on your edge where it's like completely out of your comfort zone. But what I'm saying is, when you stay in your comfort zone, there's never any growth. When you push yourself slightly outside of your comfort zone, that's where all the growth is. Because when you go to the gym and you're lifting the weight and you're lifting weights that you're comfortable with, do you get the growth? No. Do you get the growth lifting weights that is impossible to lift? No, because there's no, it's almost like if you can't lift the weight at all, you don't get the growth. But you get the growth by lifting the weight a little bit heavier than you lifted before. Then your body adjusts to it. Then it adjusts, it gets used to it, it stretches. And then the next week you can handle a little bit more. The next week you can handle a little bit more. But if you go to the gym and just do the same sets you did the week before, you don't grow. You stay the same. If you go to the gym and you do a little bit less than you did the week before, your growth is going to go away. If you want to be so comfortable you don't go to the gym, you lose all your gains. If you don't use it, you lose it. Guys, you have to live on your edge. If you want to proceed in your career, it's not enough to stay comfortable. When opportunity shows up, you have to take it. You have to push yourself slightly outside your comfort zone so you can always grow. If you're waiting to be ready, you will never be ready. The only way you're ready is by getting outside your comfort zone, being a little bit uncomfortable, and then learning to be comfortable while you do it. You're never going to be ready. There's a phrase that says, jump out of the plane, build the parachute on the way down. That's what I've done for everything in my career. Maybe that's not for everybody. Maybe you don't have to jump out of the plane without a parachute and build it on the way down. But even if you have the parachute on your back, you got to jump, don't you? You still got to jump if you want to get down. Otherwise, you're not going anywhere. So push yourself outside your comfort zone just slightly so there's growth. If you stay comfortable, you're never going to grow. Does that make sense? So with that being said, what I'd like to say is there's a lot of guys in this business that carry their excuses around with them and they drag it behind them. And are like, like that guy I told you about, like the guy that he called me a year ago, then he called me again this year. I bet you, if he doesn't, maybe he'll call me again in 6 months. If he calls me again 6 months later, he still doesn't decide to take the jump, he's going to stay where he's at in his career. I'm not knocking the guy. I'm not dogging him. Just what I've seen, he's going to stay where he's at. It's not about the money. It's about taking the leap and investing in yourself and putting yourself slightly outside your comfort zone and saying, I value my career. You got to take the investment. And it's just a metaphor. It's either the investment in a course, or it's the investment in getting the new gear, or the investment in taking the leap and emailing the promoter for the first time, or the investment in, here's another story. I know a guy, I'm going to kayfabe his name. He has an opportunity to go to the Performance Center as an agent. And he's only been an agent for independent companies so far. He's way outside his comfort zone. He's never been an agent for WWE before. He's never had experience comparable to being an agent for WWE before, maybe at a smaller level. But this guy's going to go, and just because he's never had the experience before, but he's making the investment and getting there, being uncomfortable, doing it anyway. And guess what? When you're in the arena, you have a better shot of making it than if you're in the stands. If you stay in the stands, you're going to stay a fan. If you stay in the stands, nothing's going to happen. The only way that you can improve your career, move further in your career, is if you get out of the stands, get into the arena. Here's an awesome book. It's called The War of Art. It's fantastic. It's about what makes a pro and what makes an amateur. And it's not about wrestling. It's about life. It's about art. It's about creative people. It's about whatever. What makes a pro versus what makes an amateur. But when you read this book, I promise you, you're going to be, that's an indie wrestler, the amateur's an independent wrestler, a pro is a professional. And the guy writes a quote. He says, it's better to be in the arena getting stomped on by the bull than in the arena stands or in the parking lot. And so many guys are comfortable being in the parking lot, but carrying their excuse saying, someday I'm going to make it, but I can't until someday because I don't have the right body, or because they haven't noticed me yet, or because this problem or that problem, or the finances, or I don't know what to do, or I don't have the right resources. Guys, when everybody starts out, nobody Nobody has the right resources unless you're born into the wrestling family. Unless you're Stephanie McMahon, you weren't born heir apparent to WWE. Triple H wasn't born heir apparent of WWE. He showed up because he knew his value, knew what he could offer, and he put himself in the position. And he earned the position because he can actually deliver. Does that make sense, right? Nobody has the resources when they start. Nobody has the body when they start. You don't get born when you're a kid and you're instantly jacked with a six-pack. You got to go to the gym, right? Nobody's born with it. Nobody, and some people have better genetics than others, but can you fix it? You know, can you have a body type that's your ideal body type for you? Can you find a resource or become friends with somebody? Can you become more confident? Yes. Nobody has the resources when they start. The only thing that sets people apart from the ones that stay in the stands and the ones that become actual professionals is they get the resources, they grow themselves, and they put themselves in the position. But so many people are comfortable sitting in the stands, wearing the T-shirt, and being like, I'm going to make it someday. But then they don't make it because it's easier for them to complain. Or it's easier for them to be like, oh, well, I almost made it with politics, right? That guy that he could have raised his hand to go to TV and he never went and I did, I guarantee you he went to Raw or SmackDown or Ring of Honor or something, and he sat in the crowd and he talked to whoever he went with saying, I could have made it. I bet you I could have made it. And the friend would be like, yeah, man, you totally could have made it. And he would have felt good about himself. That was enough for him. He wanted the validation without putting the work in. Does that make sense? What I want for you is I want you to be one of the people that actually gets the validation for doing the thing. Being optimistic about things you're not doing is delusion. And so many guys in this business are delusional because they're like, oh, look at how awesome my career is, but they don't put the work in, they don't take the next step. Or they put things in front of what they have to do as a prerequisite, but it's really just a way to delay it longer so they don't have to actually face. Guys, this is scary. People will delay their own success just so the success never comes, just so they never have to face the fact that if they actually tried, they would have to find out if they were really good enough or not. People will delay their own success simply to delay the fact that they're going to have to face themselves and face the music, whether they can make it or not. And they would rather live an unfulfilled career and say, well, maybe I could have, than find out for sure or not. Do you fall in that category? As long as you're in this business, I hope not. So here's what I want to leave you with. If you guys are saying, I'm going to try to make it, I'm going to try to do this, I'm going to try to get in better shape, I'm going to try to reach out. Guys, the word try is the battle cry of wimps. I don't mean to say that derogatory, but try is the battle cry of wimps. There's no try, there's only do. Just like Yoda from Star Wars, right? There is no try, only do there is. Like whatever, however he said it. Try presupposes not doing. I talked to a guy yesterday. I said, okay, cool. Well, what do you, and he's having all sorts of problems in his life and his career, stuff like that. I said, well, what do you, and so here's what, he said a phrase, and I caught it, and I called him out on it. And he goes, you know, I always believe it's always going to work out at the last minute. And I said, watch your language. And he goes, well, I didn't swear. I said, no, don't swear. I said, watch your language. He goes, what do you mean? I said, take out the last few words. He goes, what do you mean? I said, you said, I trust that things will always work out for me at the last minute. He goes, what about that? I said, you added at the last minute. Feel the difference. I trust that things will always work out for me. I trust that things will always work out for me at the last minute. Do you feel the difference? Do you feel what you're saying to yourself in your own head? When you trust that things are always going to work out for you, it could work out for you at any time. When you trust that things are going to work out for you, you will look for opportunity. When you trust that things are going to work out for you, you trust that things are always going to be good, or you're going to have the opportunity, or something's going to work out in your favor, or you're looking for the optimistic stuff. When you say, I trust that things are always going to work out in my favor at the last minute, you believe that it's going to be painful. It's going to be struggling. It's going to be all this bad stuff has to happen to you, and then finally something good might happen at the end that's going to bail you out of a jam. I said, why don't you just get rid of the last few words and just have the joy that comes with it? And his face, like I literally watched this. This was an in-person meeting. I literally watched his face melt. Guys, people in the wrestling careers do this all the time, don't they? They do it all the time. Oh, well, I'm going to try to make it, but I don't know. Or, I have faith that I'm going to make it someday. I'm going to make it someday. Well, what someday is, okay, if I say I'm going to make it tomorrow and I go to sleep and I wake up and say I'm going to make it tomorrow, well, tomorrow's always the next day. It's always the next day. So I have faith it's always going to work out for me no matter what right now. You're always looking for the opportunity. Consider that. So with that being said, I think that's enough for this week. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask. I'm happy to help you out. Check us out, Inner Squared Circle Instagram. That's blowing up. We got a lot of good stuff there. Check us out on Inner Squared Circle. We have a YouTube page now, which is going to continue to grow. And Inner Squared Circle Facebook group. That's our free group. Guys, if this is helping you, please invite some people in. Invite other wrestlers. Let us know. You can share our posts if you want to. Feel free to copy the memes, paste the memes, share any of our stuff. Just give us credit. If anything that you like, a blog post, a video, a meme, copy it, paste it, share it, retweet us, re-Instagram us, whatever. Just let us know. And we'd like to get more people involved. Because I think there's so much bad stuff. There's so much bad advice. And I was talking to the guy, I told you, I have a friend of mine on the independent level who's going to WWE as an agent coming up. And we were discussing this. It's like so many voices, so many like experts in the, like quote unquote experts in the business are trying to sincerely teach the guys, but they're teaching them the backwards way. And they're teaching them the way that it has to be hard, and like the wrestling bubble stuff about like the pain and you got to work for free and struggle and starve in your car and stuff like that. Like, I almost feel like it's a personal responsibility that we get this type of message out there more, because otherwise, like, if this message doesn't get out there, what happens, right? Like, what's the alternative? You know what I'm saying? So, like, I look at it like we're doing a really, really good service for the wrestling business by putting this out there, helping the guys out. And if you got guys in your area that you think this would be helpful to, please invite them in. We'd love to be able to reach as many people as possible. Other than that, if you invite somebody in to double your bookings, we'll give you a referral fee. Take that right out of whatever it is that they pay. You know what you guys paid. So whatever that is comes in, percentage right to you. I would appreciate that. And other than that, guys, have a great rest of your week. See you on Monday with week 8 for the life cycle of a career, how to always rejuvenate yourself, how to overcome obstacles you have moving forward, right? How to always continue the momentum, how to find your balance, right? And also we're going to do the wheel of things you need to be focusing on to make sure you stay well-rounded next week and beyond. So talk to you next week. Have any questions, ask me, and I will see you soon. Take care, guys.